Welcome into the Illini Inquirer Podcast. It is a special edition of the Illini Inquirer Podcast. It is our Sign Guys podcast, and credit to Joey Wagner for starting this last year. His excitement for Joe Barna, the freshman outside linebacker, boiled over to where he made the sign. Is it sitting there on your desk?
It is. Yep, it is.
This is the original
sign. Original sign.
So, Joey, take us in. What does Sign Guy mean?
I have no idea. It's just kind of our guys, right? Like, but it's not, I think of it like if you go back to how we did picks to click in 2022, like you don't want to always be like, oh, Luke Altmaier sign, or, well, I don't want to get too far, Gabe Akis sign, or Xavier Scott or Matthew Bailey, because of course that's not unique, that's not creative, that's not really that fun. Like, we know those guys are really good football players. They're going to have a lot of impact on the team. But it's just guys that are, kind of fun, right? It's maybe the impact is going to range from, we have 6 total for each of us. So maybe those are going to range a little bit in productivity, but just a way to talk about different guys and to have fun while doing it. So to lay it out this year, we have one more or less proven guy. We've each decided. So I guess Altmaier, Akis, Xavier Scott, Matthew Bailey would fall into that category. I know we didn't go that route, Jeremy, but guy we've seen it a little bit on the field. We have a freshman, so Joe Barna would have worked a year ago. Then we have 4, not wild cards, but somewhere between kind of proven, have played, and not totally proven. That's how we've laid it out this year to be able to talk about more guys.
And just kind of guys that we gravitate to a little bit, whether it's watching them in games or really recently watching them in practice, and just guys that we think can make an impact, whether huge every down or guys that might sneak up on us and that we think have another level they can get to, and maybe some guys in the future we'll talk about with the freshmen. So just fun way to talk about some of the players we're really excited about. But before we get into that, I do want to just give an update from training camp. We caught up with Brett Bielema and the coordinators yesterday. You can check out all our news and notes and in-depth stuff at IlliniInquirer.com. And right now, sign up for 50% off. We've had more than 100 people sign up this month. It's been awesome. Appreciate all you guys for signing up. We've really put a lot into our coverage there, giving some basketball updates too. So $60 in savings. That goes through the end of the month, through kickoff here of the season. So you got about 10 more days to take advantage of that and get all the VIP content we've been putting out there. But just some newsy updates. JC Davis was still not practicing fully yesterday. He was not in a boot when we saw him. Brett Bielema suggested he was in a boot some other times. That doesn't mean that he can't play or can't walk on that foot. That just means they're taking a little bit of pressure off that foot. But Brett Bielema did say he's expected to return later this week. He's on track for that. I asked, is he nervous or concerned at all about his left tackle not practicing the last 2 weeks here, Joey? And he again said, well, the doctors tell me he's on track for late this week. So I think one good sign, Joey, is that Melvin Priestley was back at right tackle yesterday at practice. They were putting Desmond Schuster, who has kind of really shown up the last week and brought a lot of excitement, which is a very encouraging sign that they have maybe a swing tackle that they can play on either side. But Brett Bielema seems to think JC Davis will be ready by next week and for the opener. But this has lingered a little bit, and it's just worth noting. It's a guy who's gotten a lot of snaps, but boy, you would rather have him practice in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I don't know what the I mean, Brett Bielema had initially said he hoped to get him back 2 weeks prior to game time. So almost 5 days, 6 days later, depending on when he comes back. With someone who's played as many snaps as JC Davis, you're not that worried about it. As long as he's starting and lined up against Western Illinois, and even if that's a half, if that's 3 quarters, right? But he plays at Duke, I think you're fine. You see, as long as he's back at the end of this week, I don't know how much you'd fret it, but ideally, yeah, you would have liked to have him out there and getting those, we talked so much about, right? Continuity with Josh Gesky, with Josh Kreutz, with the offensive line. Again, the amount of snaps he's played, that's not a huge deal for him, but you don't like to see your left tackle in a boot within the month of the season opener.
Yeah, and it's plantar fasciitis, which from everything, my experience of seeing this in the pro sports or whatever, it's a use injury, right? So you need to rest it. And I do think they're being as cautious as possible with, as you said, a fifth-year guy who started so many games, 80-something game or 50-some games at the Division I level. He's very good, and he's really important to you. So you mentioned as long as he's back for Western Illinois, yes, I'd like him to play in that game. As long as he's back for Duke. That is probably the most important thing here. And getting Desmond Schuster as many snaps as possible certainly isn't a bad thing with all the reps he's missed the last couple of years. Depth is improving a little bit on the offensive line. Brandon Hansen and TJ McMillan both back from concussion. So that second string offensive line is looking a little better. Is worth noting Brandon Hansen was at right tackle a little bit, and Brett Bielema can confirm that. He's been repping at right tackle a little bit more with the backups. I think that's a good sign of Brandon Henderson locking down that right guard job. We'll talk with Bart Miller later today. Some other key players who are back from injury. Malik Elzy is back after missing time with a hamstring injury last week. He participated in the scrimmage on Friday. And Matthew Bailey, who missed some time last week with a back injury, was really precautionary. I think he would have played in the game if they had one last weekend. He was back as well. Not a lot on the scrimmage, Joey. We didn't get many details about that. They haven't shared a lot about that, but that was a little bit newsworthy items from yesterday. Anything else you want to add?
No, the scrimmage is funny because, one, we don't see it, right? So it's really hard to frame any single question. And then you have to kind of take the answers you do get or the information you do get and kind of zoom out a little bit, because Brett Bielema said, okay, hey, the good from the scrimmage, the first scrimmage, was they didn't put the ball on the ground. And they did once yesterday. Conversely, if for a defense that's been talking about recording takeaways, like maybe you would have liked to see as a defense a couple more of those footballs on the grounds or interceptions or whatever the case may be. So I don't just kind of have to put it out there, right? You don't really know how much to take from this because it's the offense just exceptionally good. And we've seen Luke Altmaier is not particularly interception prone as much anymore. He has put the ball on the ground. Or is the defense not getting takeaways at the level that they want? And again, it's one scrimmage, right? Like you don't want to put so much stock into this just because it's got the scrimmage word associated with it. So it's long story short, it's really hard to know how much to take out of those or what to take out of those. You hope to hear when you're asking about these a name or two, right? Oh, so-and-so popped. And that name that we've heard for the last week or so, week and a half, has been Des Schuster at the offensive line. We thought he was a guard, but he's been playing tackle. He's got really long arms. So that was kind of my takeaway is Barry Lunny brought him up. Brett Bielema has been bringing him up. Des Schuster might be that 6th, 7th offensive lineman this season, and which is a really cool story for him. But you kind of hope to hear a couple names, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and this is a kid that was a big JUCO addition in the class of 2023, one of the better offensive line prospects at that level. And they could have really used him that year, but he had an enlarged heart, and so his season was basically scrapped there. So he does have potential to get a medical red shirt and play again next year. So you start thinking about next year when you lose all these guys, to have a potential experienced senior big guy tackle body could be really important. But even for this year, if you have JC Davis or Melvin Priestley out for a game, who is that guy going to be? Is Aiden Knappich really ready to be the left tackle? And he's had a knee injury that's kept him out of almost the entire training camp, Joey. So that was a concern for me because I don't think Zafir Stewart or Nathan Knappich or even Tyler McMillan, are they ready yet? I don't think so. So Desmond Schuster stepping up could be big for this year and for next year. So that's been a pleasant surprise. I think they're really, really excited about it. An offensive line that's been banged up, to have that kind of poke through is great. And to get Hansen and McMillan back, I'm just feeling a lot better about the 2 deep on the offensive line than I was a couple weeks ago. The other thing I want to mention that I kind of took out was how many times did Aaron Henry talk about his defensive line depth? That felt like the big takeaway from him is like, I still have questions about the defensive line because Kurt Neal, I feel is going to be a solid player. And we'll talk more about the nose tackle position here, but he was part of a Wisconsin defensive line that wasn't very good at stopping the run last year. So that doesn't assuage my concerns about that. Tomiwa Durajaye is on his 4th year. So there's questions about him. Pat Farrell stepping into potentially a way bigger role. Jeremiah Warren, those guys have to step up. So I have some questions a little bit about the high end of the starters outside of James Thompson, but I do feel way better about the depth because there was a huge drop off to the second string last year. And you saw it every time those young guys came onto the field. Now that Warren and Farrell are a year older, you got Carter Hewitt and Tommy Wadurajaye, it just feels like you're going to have a serviceable second string defensive line, which I don't know if they had last year, and they still found a way to win 10 games, which is pretty amazing. I just think being able to rotate and not have a huge drop off, that's where that defensive line could get better, even if I have questions about the high end of the starters outside of Thompson.
Yeah, they haven't had really a particularly great second string of the defensive line. You go back, remember Johnny Newton gets ejected, and it's like Keith Randolph's kind of on one ankle. There's not a lot there, right, to be disruptive or to stop the run. So it goes back, and some of that's not just Illinois issues, right? If you're a defensive lineman who can move and can play, you're probably going to get paid in the transfer portal, especially if you're a backup.
You could argue it's what separates the top end schools from the bottom. Is like Georgia and Alabama, they just have waves of dudes on the defensive line, and the Eagles in the NFL just having like 2 starting lineups on the defensive line. The fact that those guys only play like 300, 400 snaps in a season, it's unbelievable. It keeps them fresh throughout the games, and that's where it's hard to build depth. But Terrence Jameson's starting to get there.
Yeah, I was high on the defensive line for a pod we did back in, I don't know, late spring, early summer. I still really like what they have there, and I feel better about the depth that's emerging. I just what do they need that to be, right? They need to stop the run better, no doubt. I think James Thompson should help do that. But I also kind of mentally associate stopping the run better with that Calvin Avery-like nose tackle, right? And I know they've kind of traded a little bit of that for pass rush value, and T. Edwards was really good at that. And he wasn't, by any stretch of the imagination, bad against the run. But do they have that guy who they can put in at nose tackle, who they can really use to clog up the lane and maybe trade some pass rush value against certain teams? Maybe Kurt Neal steps into that. Maybe the system fit is better for him, and Terrence Jameson gets the most out of him, and this is a concern that's not going to hold true by the end of September. Maybe that's the case, or maybe they do leave more to be desired in run defense. But I do like the fact that, as you mentioned, you have guys, maybe it's some of the same faces, your Pat Farrells, your Jeremiah Warrens, with another year in the system, Angelo McCollum with another year in the system. But there was notably, and we're not trying to, dunk on any, younger defensive lineman who was put into a really tough spot a year ago. But when that rotation happened, teams moved the ball very well on the ground. And that was problematic, and it was concerning.
All right, last thing before we get to our sign, guys, Illinois basketball released its non-conference schedule. My wife, Joey's fiance, very happy that we got some kind of schedule out there so we can start planning our fall and winter. But the biggest news was Illinois State coming for an exhibition on October 19th, Jackson State November 3rd, Florida Gulf Coast November 7th. Texas Tech comes to town for a great home and home series, the first game in that November 11th. And the payment for Cameron Crocker, Colgate comes to town November 14th. They get that bye game. November 19th, Alabama at United Center, bringing that series back. UConn in a couple of years will be here for that. November 22nd, Long Island. November 24th, UT Rio Grande Valley. And then, Joey, Black Friday through Christmas is going to be one heck of a run for Illinois basketball. Just marquee game, heavyweight battle after heavyweight battle. You got UConn November 28th at New York City, which is going to be obviously heavily UConn there, especially with the holiday weekend. December 6th, Tennessee in Nashville. December 22nd, Missouri and St. Louis. Obviously, all of these neutral sites away from Champaign, away from the state of Illinois. And I'm almost guaranteeing there's going to be 2 Big Ten games sandwiching that Tennessee game. One before, one after, because there's a week-long break and then 2-week break. There's going to be some Big Ten games in there. So 5 straight, just heavyweight bouts, and then you wrap up against Southern on December 29th. Hopefully Joey Wagner and I are somewhere warm for the bowl game, and we could put our new addition, Kyle Tausk, on that duty for that game. But Joey, any thoughts on the non-con schedule here?
It's going to be a fun end of November into December. I like the neutral site games, and you're kind of trading back and forth. I like home and homes a lot. Like, I really, really liked it. Thought the Tennessee was fun. I think Texas Tech is going to be fun. I would have liked to see another high major program for the home and home in Champaign and then trade that back next season. I mean, right now, the home schedule, your big game is Texas Tech, which is going to be fun, right? I think that's going to be a really, really good atmosphere and people are going to get on board with that. But I just, the way MTEs, we don't really know what the longevity and how attractive those are going to be to high major teams, not just Illinois, but
Brad
broadly.
doesn't like them. Brad does not like not controlling his schedule. He doesn't like, when they went to Maui and he can't decide which games he's going to. I'm pretty bummed. My wife's pretty bummed that we're not going to go to Maui probably again in the Brad Underwood era. But, playing 3 games when you could play a Duke or you could play, some random school from the Big East or, a mid-major team, they don't want to do that. He wants to control the schedule and put as many quad 1 opportunities on that as possible. You spread out the games a little bit too. That's what Brad wants. So I don't know if we're going to see MTEs back, especially when Illinois, Joey, can draw these type of opponents like Alabama, UConn, Tennessee, having Missouri every year. Now at Texas Tech, like they are drawing top teams are definite quad 1s every year.
Yeah, I'd like to see 1 or 2 or more of those drawn for home at homes. That's really my thing. And I know the United Center, this is the time to go back and do that, right? And it's the time for Tennessee to make this attractive for them. Hey, let's go to Nashville and get another part of our fan base, and we'll come to Chicago and get another part of yours. Same for UConn. College atmospheres are fun. Like they are really, really fun. When you think of that Tennessee game last season, you think of, what was it, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? Tennessee, Arizona. You think about those games and like what that brings to the State Farm Center. I understand all the logistics and moving pieces, but I would like to have seen one more of those. I think is realistic to trade out one of those neutral site kind of near games.
The Madison Square Garden experience is cool. I'm glad all these kids are getting to play there. Every time I walk in there, I go, where's John Starks and Patrick Ewing? I just think of NBA on NBC with all those Jordan battles. So that's really cool. I get that experience. Getting back to Chicago makes a lot of sense with where your program is. The St. Louis game's great. And I think Nashville trip could be a lot of fun for fans, as long as they don't have to choose between a Big Ten championship game and that. I mean, that's going to be have to take a heck of a season for Illinois football to do that. But I like that they're at least getting one. It's way better than none. For a lot of years, there wasn't any marquee game unless you got lucky in the Big Ten ACC Challenge. And without that, without the Gavitt games now, Brad can really load this thing up. And he seems to really like that kind of neutral site feeling. Plus, it kind of helps your, quad 1 opportunities there too. Because at home, you have a huge advantage. It's got to be top 30. If it's quad 1, it's top 50. So you kind of open up that a little bit as well. I do like that Illinois State's coming here for an exhibition. I think that's cool. There's some storylines. Ryan Peden was on John Gross's staff here at Illinois. Andrew Dockich is an assistant coach there. Obviously, Brandon Lieb is returning for his last year of eligibility. And Ty Pence, St. Joe Ogden kid, is playing at Illinois State. I do like that. But there's only one exhibition, Joey, so we might actually have a secret scrimmage again.
I think so. It would seem to make sense, right? And the secret scrimmages that are secret for about a week, and then they're not very secret because there's stuff you want to get out about what's happened there. Secret scrimmages, I get it, right? It's a chance to do things behind closed doors. You can manipulate the game a little bit more, the settings. I understand.
I think that it's just like a football practice where Bielema can work on red zone. He can work on being backed up, right? Like they like being able to just not play just a game, but set up these kind of situations they want to work on.
Yeah, I get it. I also thought some of those charity exhibitions were awesome.
They can.
And really fun. So I'm not trying to be a downer on it. I do think that month, that end of November into December is going to be really fun. I'm with you. I like that Illinois State is here, and that, it's kind of for them a chance to come and test yourselves against Illinois. Yeah, not any huge surprises. Those non-conference, the big heavy hitters of the non-conference schedule have been leaked for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever the case is. And then you thought that's how the rest of it was going to go, fill out with bye games and go from there.
So every once in a while, Alex, our ad guy, will send me some of the product that we sponsor on the show, and we're happy that our sponsors do that. But I got to be honest with you, I was pretty excited when he sent me, unbeknownst to me, didn't tell me that this was coming, but a huge package of Omaha Steaks. Because yes, From handcrafted steaks to family grilling favorites, Omaha Steaks delivers the world's best steak experience. My wife and I immediately tore into the sirloin steaks. They even give you like a preparation guide, how long you should cook it, all of that. And these are some of the most tender steaks I've ever had. Ripped into some chicken cutlets. I have chicken that always is in the fridge just to get that protein into my meals. And this was some of the most tender chicken I've ever had. So we are excited to dive into more. The burgers, the beef grilled franks. We're looking forward to all of that. But I can tell you, the Omaha Steaks is quality meat. Enjoy USDA certified tender steaks, juicy burgers, deli-style franks, meaty chicken wings, and more. And guys, it's now tailgate time. You're getting ready for your Illini tailgates this fall. Labor Day is right around the corner. There's nothing like having that kind of Omaha Steaks, the quality meat that they bring. It's exceptional handcrafted flavor and convenience. They offer unrivaled quality and variety, and every bite is backed by their 100% guarantee. So get fired up for fall grilling with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide during their Labor Day sale, and for an extra $35 off, use promo code Illini at checkout. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $35 off with promo code Illini at checkout. See site for details. All right, Joey, it's time for Sign Guys Podcast 2025. I guess it's the inaugural Sign Guys podcast. That we could do this every year moving forward and just kind of pick our guys that we really, really like. So again, there's no real thing. It's just guys we like, guys we think are going to take a step forward, guys we like watching play. We'll kind of explain it as we go along here. We are going to take one proven guy in this group. And Joey, would you like to do the honors since you're the brains behind this idea? Who is Joey Wagner's first sign guy for 2025 Illinois football?
If you're putting me the brains behind anything on this podcast got about 2 more episodes and it's over. We did not reuse Joe Barna this year. Just wanted to fresh start. So just put that out there. The proven guy, this is so bad because my penmanship, I texted you earlier. I was like, this is going to be awful. Then you sent me a picture of yours. So mine is Kaden Fagan, my proven guy. And proven is, I don't want to say a super reach because I do think what we've seen of him has been really impressive. Injuries have really been the only thing that have stopped Kaden Fagan from being totally proven. This kid's, he's been fun to watch. I mean, we covered his recruiting so intently. I remember working in Decatur in his freshman year. It was like, oh, this kid would have won the long jump in high school when he was in 8th grade. Like, there was all these kind of like big stories about him, right? And things he could have done and was going to be. And I think he took a kick return or had a big run, like his first game as a freshman. I remember working the desk and his stat came in like, what is going on here? Then obviously he blew up into a 4-star recruit and a really, really big win for Brett Bielema. We covered the heck out of that recruitment. You'll remember, and Brett Behrens doesn't care that we bring this up. This was live at Arthur when he committed to Illinois. And if you watch the live stream, you remember Scotty having some technical difficulties on WCIA, getting that stream going. So we're all kind of gotta go, Scotty. And that's a deep cut for anyone who watched that. But he's been a fun kid to watch, and you see it. That's the thing with him is you see it start to happen with him, and that's kind of been the crappy part about his injuries. Is it felt like before he got hurt both times, he was starting to go. Yeah. And you could really see all of this talent, all of this skill come to fruition, and he gets hurt. And really the other unfortunate part for him is it wasn't a redshirt opportunity with those injuries. It was late in the season, so he's all of a sudden a junior, Jeremy. But I'm in on Kaden Fagan. I'm excited to see what he can do, and I'm sure he'll be a over-under or pick to click with that sign a couple times this year.
There's no question Kaden Fagan is a high-impact performer at this level. He has proven it when he's been on the field. Joey, in the last 9 games he's played, he's averaged 82 yards from scrimmage with 6 touchdowns over those 9 games. Put that over an entire 13-game season. That's over 1,000 yards from scrimmage and 8 touchdowns. That's a guy who's flirting with all Big Ten caliber production. One of those games against Eastern Illinois, I think he's going to have a good game against Western Illinois, but he's done this against Penn State, Nebraska, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Maryland. He's done this against good teams. Purdue, that second half where Illinois is getting blown out, came in and gave him a bright spot 2 years ago. That size, 6'3", now what, 265? I think they listed him at.
They have him listed at 255 on the website. I guess that's probably pretty close.
Just massive, but I've mentioned this before. Brett Bielema has all these running backs over the years, and he still gets giddy talking about Kaden Fagan and the potential of Kaden Fagan. It just has to stay healthy. If he stays healthy over an entire season, I think he's an all Big Ten caliber running back and a potential next level guy. I'm interested to see how the NFL would use someone like him, but he's got the explosiveness, Joey, to be that kind of playmaker. Because you get into the second or third level, a lot of linebackers and defensive backs are not going to want to bring that guy down and are going to struggle to bring that guy down. My only question with him is, does his vision continue to improve? Because that was an issue early on in the season, did not play all that well against Kansas or Central Michigan. I know the offensive line didn't play that well against Central Michigan, but you can just see he was kind of upright and didn't really make a decisive move right away. It's the difference of when Josh McCray came into the game. But against Nebraska and Penn State, you started to see that come back. One reason I do think he's going to play even more than maybe we expect, he's the best pass blocker of this running back group, and they missed that with Josh McCray. He was good last year. I think he's only going to get better. Watching him with Thad Ward, like hit that sled and work on those pass blocking drills, he's just a force. So I think a lot of those third downs, you could see him on the field, because it is a question with Aiden Lawfreeze. How good of a pass blocker can he be? He's more like Chase Brown, and Chase Brown was not a great pass blocker. Fagan can be great or elite at that. Having him back there is got to help Luke Altmaier.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of the big thing. When you think about how you replace Josh McCray, pass blocking, and who's a massive person to give the ball to when you're inside the 5 or inside the 10. Fagan checks both of those boxes.
In all respect to McCray, but he does not have the explosive ability of Kaden Fagan, right? Like
he doesn't, but as you mentioned, I thought his vision as a running back was really, really good, and something that you saw happen with Kaden Fagan as those games went on last year and really back into 23.
All right. My first sign guy of the 2025 Illinois football season, Joey. Melvin
Yes.
Priestley, offensive lineman. This good group, and I feel like a lot of these guys get their due. J.C. Davis talked about as one of the best prospects NFL-wise for Illinois. Josh Kreutz, 2-time team captain. Forgot to mention Gabe Ackus and Luke Altmaier both become first-time team captains. But Melvin Priestley was an all-Big Ten honorable mention last year, so he got at least 2 votes from either coaches or media there. But he's just not as high on radars as some of these other people. And last year, his PFF grade, Joe, was 58.5. A lot of that was brought down by penalties, not as many, a third of them that he had at Grambling the year before. So cut down to 8 penalties, that can still improve. But I still think, even though he's a senior, he's just scratching the surface, man. He's not the longest guy, but I think he's arguably the most talented offensive lineman that Illinois has right now, at least in terms of athleticism and power. A lot of times you hear offensive line coaches talk about, or even defensive line coaches talk about transitioning speed to power. Like you can get there, but then can you turn it into blowing somebody over? There's no question about that with Melvin Priestley. Like watching practice since the spring, he's one of the most dominant guys I've seen in practice and consistently on the offensive line. Like him and Gabe Ackus battles, when we get to see them one-on-one is a treat. But both are winning some, and it's just 2 next level guys, in my opinion. I think Melvin is an NFL guard. I think he's going to start getting on NFL draft radars more this season, but he's a heck of a Big Ten tackle. And I just think he's a tone setter in the run game. I'm bullish on what Illinois can do in the run game this season with the running backs they have, with the offensive line and tight ends that they have. And he can just simply get out and move people. He can get out in space and be effective there. I just think Melvin Priestley has the chance to be one of the Illini's best players. And I just don't know how many people are talking about it. And that's why I'm bringing him up. I just think he is a phenomenal player. And I was talking with Blake Brockermeyer in the offseason, former Bears offensive tackle, NFL offensive tackle, and he asked me for some guys that he should look into outside of Altmaier. And of course, I gave him Ackus and Xavier Scott, and then I passed on 2 offensive linemen, J.C. Davis and Melvin Priestley. He loved Priestley. So that's another guy that kind of backs up what I'm trying to say here. I just think he has the chance to really kind of fully break out. I think we saw flashes of it last year. It was good last year. I think he can be great this year.
Yeah, co-sign on everything that you said. There's still a lot left to unpack with Melvin Priestley. And he's going to be that guy who maybe is, and look, I know PFF grades are probably like the most divisive thing that we do every week, right? And I don't think they're perfect. They're not. They're absolutely, I think the stats are more important to me than the grades are. But he's going to be that guy that maybe his grade is like between 65 and 68, but he's also going to be that offensive line junkies who know what they're watching, are your Martin O'Donnells of the world, are cutting up clips and posting them to social like, oh, here's Melvin Priestley doing X, Y, and Z over the course of a game. And it's just like, oh my gosh, this guy is really, really talented. Even if the penalties maybe will bring him down, or maybe even if you still see some of those growing, developing moments from him, those highs are going to be as high as when JC Davis is in a good pass block that, or when JC Davis is moving the Northwestern football program back 10 yards. You know what I mean?
That's the thing, is like JC understandably should get all the flowers for that block. Melvin did that way more consistently last year as a run blocker than JC did at times. So I just think he's that tone setter in there. And what a transfer find. One of the best that they've had at Illinois. East St. Louis kid, that certainly helps. But Brett Bielema, this is one of the guys he talks about, man, if I just had him from the start, like what he could have been. So the development of him going into year 2, I'm just really, really excited about.
Is what he could have been a 3-year guard if Brett had him for 4 years?
You wonder.
I'm not saying he's a bad tackle, but I think we think he's a guard in the NFL, and I think he could be meaner than hell as a guard in college.
All right. I think we're both going the same position here. So can I go first with this one?
Yeah, because I have nothing organized. So please do.
Okay. This is kind of a proven guy. Kind of.
Oh, okay.
Right. And it's a guy I've talked about a lot on this podcast. So we're just making it official. It is Colin Dixon time. It is Colin Dixon time with sign guys. Yes, he's a no doubt starter on this team, but we keep talking about Malik Elzy, Justin Bullock, Hudson Clement, Braden Trimble, and now we're bringing up Alexander Kapka-Jones a little bit more, who's earning more and more significant reps in camp. But all those guys have still got questions about, Joey. You know, I have no questions about Colin freaking Dixon. He snuck up and won that slot job last year. He produced when he was thrown to, had 18 receptions on 25 targets last year, second on the team of the guys that were in the rotation in yak per reception, so he can make plays after the catch. He's a heck of a blocker. That's really what got him on the field, is kind of that power slot. But I think there are probably 3 guys who have the chance to lead this team in receptions. I think that's Dixon, Hank Beatty, and Hudson Clement. But I think Dixon is probably the safest bet, Joey, simply because I think he's going to have the most snaps on the team at receiver. I just think he's going to barely leave the field, get 600 plus snaps in his season, because when he can play the slot, he can play the slot when Clement is on the field. He can play the Z when Beatty is on the field. And I think I told you this the other day, Joey, there's just going to be a lot of 4-catch, 50 to 60 yard games out of Dixon. And you times that by 12 or 13, that's a 700-yard season. There's just so many ways you can get him with the ball on a slant when he's playing Zachary Franklin's role, on little screen passes, on end arounds, shovel passes. I just think this guy's going to get the ball 5 or 6 times a game. I think he's got some breakaway ability, and he's just not going to leave the field. He's got the trust. Brett Bielema's called him an A1 guy, and he's shown it on the field. Now it's just going to be in a much bigger role.
Yeah, he's also 2026 team captain in our opinion, right? That is, he's got command of that wide receiver room. He's got trust in that wide receiver room. You're right. He did sneak up on that slot job. What was more surprising to you last week 1? Caleb Patterson starting corner or Colin Dixon starting slot?
That's a great question. Because Terrence Brooks, was like, is that guy really not going to start?
I think it has to be Patterson.
Yeah. So it got to the point in camp where you and I are like, okay, maybe we got to take this seriously. And that's kind of where we're at with Alexander Kapka-Jones. It would not shock us if he was the starting X. I think Malik Elzy and Justin Bullock are both going to play. I think all of them, they're still trying to figure that out. Colin Dixon, I think we started to realize midway through camp, like, this is real. and the Kenari Wilcher is really probably not a factor here. And so I still think it was Patterson, but it was a pretty big shot because they were putting Kenari Wilcher out there in the spring. They were putting Hank Beatty out there in the spring. Really didn't start hearing a ton of buzz about Dixon until late in the spring, early in fall training camp.
And we weren't even sure that he was a slot, right? I mean, I thought he was an outside guy. Okay, I don't want to get off track with Kapka Jones. We'll save that for the position battles.
You can bring him up.
I'm glad you brought him up because there are a lot of similarities to this point from what we've seen in training camp to Patterson a year ago, where it's like, no, it's going to be Terrence Brooks, right? Or no, it's going to be Malik Elzy or Justin Bowick, right? And the more you look up, it's like, nope, it really is Kapka Jones and Caleb Patterson. We'll see. I don't know how entrenched Kapka Jones is into that starting spot, but he's got Luke Altmaier's trust. He's been around. Barry Lunny said technically really 2 years because he was so late in that first year in the system, and he just keeps showing up with the ones. Like he's got that there. I do think this position in particular, and Dixon doesn't fit exactly into this, but he's got versatility. More than any other position, I think on this team, the week one starter at the X might change by that Indiana game, or that might change by, I don't even know who they're playing after Indiana at this point.
My feeling has been about that X position because there's been good buzz about Malik Elzy. Like even Barry Lonnie said yesterday, it's starting to click with him. That's a very positive. But we're also not hearing like, oh yeah, Malik's the guy. Like, we haven't heard that. And Alexander Kapka Jones keeps getting big reps. Part of that might have been Malik's injury, right? Mm-hmm. Justin Bowick, Brett Bielema mentioned him as a guy stepping up along with Hudson Clement. The more comfortable there are. I wrote a story about Hudson Clement. Seems like he's settling in to the player we thought. So the way I look at it, it's Clement, Beatty, and Dixon playing the Z in the slot. Some form of combination of those. They're all going to get a lot of snaps. That X position, I think we have to see it in games. I think Luke Altmaier and Barry Lunny have to see who steps up and makes those plays in games. Practice certainly matters. It doesn't seem like anybody's pulled away from that, which could be a bad thing, could be a good thing. I don't know, but I don't think we're going to know who that guy is until maybe late in September. And that's the feeling in the program, it seems like, too.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Kapka Jones because he is I think he's got Luke Altmaier's trust. The open practice that we saw, he had some catches. Luke Altmaier was comfortable going to him. He had that big catch against Michigan State a year ago. I just want to put him out there because we did kind of gloss over him in the wide receiver pod.
Yep.
And it's becoming clear that maybe we should have spent a little bit more time on him because I think minimally he's in that rotation. And it wouldn't surprise me at all to see him out there starting and was using that trust against Western Illinois in week one.
Elzy is the best blocker, the most physical. He's got to show he can make those catches, right? Reliably make those catches. Justin Bowick is the longest and the fastest of that group. So Kapka Jones maybe physically isn't the best, but he's been in the system for a couple years. He's got great hands. He's really long, and he just seems to make the plays when they come to him, and he seems to know where to be and when to be there, and that's a big thing for receivers and their quarterbacks. So just don't
put him on the radar. Not saying he's going to start against Ohio State, but I think he's going to get opportunity early, and we'll see if he can maximize that opportunity and keep being that guy.
The point is he's going to get his opportunities. So go with your guy, Joey.
Well, I forgot that you had Melvin Priestley, even though you sent me a picture of your really nice penmanship this morning. So I thought your proven guy for some reason was going to be Colin Dixon, and my heart sank because I was like, oh no, these two are statistically profiled very similarly, and I can't have your proven guy be the guy that I'm sitting here saying is unproven. But Hank Beatty, I have no idea if these are on screen, so let's hope it is. It's Hank Beatty.
You got Hank Bate on there, but hey, we're good.
Oh no,
just pull it back. Just pull it back. There you go.
Oh, that works really well. I think Hank Beatty is going to be, I think, the starter in the slot when they go to 3 wide receiver sets. He is a guy right now when we're talking about this wide receiver room, we have to, one of the biggest factors in my brain, obviously talent matters. Who does your quarterback trust to go to right now when you have so much turnover? Colin Dixon, we think Kapka Jones, and Hank Beatty. And the way Hank Beatty came on last season, I don't know that you and I saw that coming. At punt return, he had said unlocked a lot of that. But you start getting later into the season, Purdue on, he started to put together moments and games, and he's quick in the slot. He started to play, it looked like, more comfortably, more confidently in the slot. And I just think he's going to get a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, it started with punt return. The fact that he won that gave him a lot of confidence. Then he made some plays like late in that Penn State game when they were up 21-7. And it was like garbage time. But he just made a couple catches. And then I think we overlooked the Rutgers game. Was that his
touchdown? Yeah, he had a touchdown in the corner there.
Had a huge touchdown in that game. And then he made a catch or two every game. And then, of course, South Carolina, that catch and run, he still probably regrets not being able to get that in the end zone because Illinois ended up not getting in the end zone with the Josh McCray fumble. But then obviously a couple more big catches for him going up and getting it late.
I was not familiar with that part of his game.
No, but we had heard Mr. Reliable. In his first 2 years, it wasn't, right? It just, when he got on the field, didn't seem confident, had a few drops, muffed a punt. And it was just like, okay, if he can't do that, like, how's he going to get in the field? Last year it clicked. You wish you had another year of eligibility with Hank Beatty, but I think he's going to get a lot of targets when he's on the field. My question is just how many actual reps is he going to get? Because when you got Colin Dixon who can block, Hudson Clement, I think they listed at 205, 210. I didn't think he was a particularly great blocker, but he's better than Hank Beatty. And then Malik Elsie is a great blocker as well. So I think his snaps might be limited to like 300, 400. But in those, I think he's going to get a lot of targets because obviously there's a lot of passing downs when Hank Beatty's on the field. But he's going to get the ball. And I wouldn't be surprised if he got 50 touches on the season. And he's going to be productive in those.
Yeah, and on media day, Brett Bielema said Hank Beatty, Colin Dixon continue to stand out. And I said, okay, well, what are you learning about your wide receiver room? Assuming he would broaden that to your Malik Elsies, your Bowicks, your Clements. And he doubled down, Hank Beatty and Colin Dixon. I think it's not only Luke Altmaier that trusts Hank Beatty. I think it's that whole freaking offensive staff that trusts Hank Beatty to have him out there and to go make the routine play. And he's got some make you miss ability. He's got some speed to turn a short route into 10, 12, 15, 18 yards. And those hidden yards, like those add up a little bit. And I think that's why I think he could be a guy who's second or third in receptions and in receiving yards.
Yeah, and just remember, Barry Lundy's offense, his first 2 years here at Illinois, ran through the slot. His passing offense ran through the slot with Isaiah Williams. But what is important is you need that X receiver. You need Dixon. You need Clement. You need Cole Rusk in the tight ends to create a little bit of pressure over the top so that it's easier to feed Beatty and Dixon on those screen passes, that you have that threat. Illinois needs to find that threat. Who's that going to be down the field? And that's why that X position, the tight end, or even Beatty and Clement in the Z is going to be so important for them. So it's good that we have two wide receivers in there, but it's just, there's some reliability. There's some known with those guys. I think that's why we're high on them. All right, Joey, you can take the next one.
Oh, you started that one, didn't you?
Yeah.
I'm going to go Malachi Hood.
I like that we're following the same kind of formula here. A guy we saw a little bit last year that we think could take a step forward.
Yeah, and if you listen to the inside linebackers portion of the preview, I don't really know where to set his snap count. I think he is going to be very important on third downs. I think he is going to be that he showed enough last year with his speed, with his ability to go sideline to sideline, with his ability to spy quarterbacks. I think he is that third down sub-package linebacker for Illinois, especially 3rd and 5+, really, right? Somewhere in that neighborhood. He's fast. He's a little different than some of those linebackers in the room. I mean, he's built really, really well, but he moves really well, and he's got those safety skills from high school. He's got that speed that maybe Dylan Rosiak doesn't have right now, right? And I think that is going to play on third down. I just feel like he showed too much last season to just fall by the wayside with Dylan Rosiak back and with Kaneno DeLuga coming back to form, presumably a weak side linebacker. He earned a spot on the field last year, and Illinois' willingness and desire to go into some of those sub packages on third down really opened the door for him.
Yeah, I came into this year thinking, do they have to find a way to get him in a different role just to get him on the field more? I want Dylan Rosiak on the field on first and second downs. We talked about it in our linebacker podcast. He's a playmaker. He's reliable. He's really good against the run. So I want Dylan Rosiak there. And Malachi Hood has been a Mike linebacker. So Dylan Rosiak is the starter. So I'm filling out my depth chart over the weekend, and I got him as the starter. And then I had James Krutz as the backup because he is. He's the first and second down backup linebacker. So I had to put Malachi Hood like third on the depth chart for form heading purposes. But he is, like you said, he's the starter in their dime package, I think, at Mike linebacker. So he's going to play more snaps last year because he's got that role, but he didn't get that role until the last 4 games of the year. But that could be 20, 30 snaps a game, Joey, in big moments on third downs, on obvious passing downs. And he was very, very good at it. Spying quarterbacks, chasing them down, giving some pass rush value as well. I wonder if at some point they just want to get that athlete on the field a little bit more. But it seems like Kanena Odeluga is going to win that weak side linebacker job. So I think it's not going to be a full-blown starting role for Malachi Hood, but in the role he's at, he's pretty damn good at.
Yeah, I'm all the way with you. He's going to change. He's going to have a couple takeaways. I don't know. Maybe he'll force one or he'll get a pick. He's going to have a game-changing play or two over the course of this season, which I get it, 13 games isn't a huge amount. But when you're talking about the role he's in, I think he's going to have kind of one of those moments where he's going to be a podium game guy.
Yeah, and he's different than the rest of them, right? Just athletically, and they need to continue doing that. And Ish Conte, they moved to the edge, was potentially one of those guys. Grant Bierman will be. It's just I think he's another year away of strength gains, but he's just different looking, 6'5", 230 pounds already. Probably needs to get to 240, 245, but they need more guys that look like that at linebacker for sure. And, it's just he's going to be a big part of special teams. And we had the conversation with somebody in the program yesterday about the captain's picks. And you mentioned Colin Dixon, I think is a shoo-in for captain next year. Aiden Woffrey is probably one of those guys. Probably add an offensive lineman. I don't know who that is right now. Is it TJ McMillan? If he wins
the job, could be, yeah.
That
could be Brandon Henderson.
Yeah.
It's a little quieter.
Who's going to be the starting quarterback? Do you have a transfer that can be that guy right away? I don't know. I doubt that would happen. But on defense, we were going over, it could be Kurt Neal. Who do we mention?
If he's still in the program and not in the NFL, there's 100% chance it's Matthew Bailey. There's no doubt in my mind he is one of them if he is back for the 26th season.
But we mentioned Malachi Hood could be in that conversation. He's got that kind of leadership to him, and someone in the program thought similarly. So a guy we are high on, certainly athletically, just the role might be similar to what it was late last year.
Kind of like Hank Beatty, a little bit in the sense of, I don't know that you're going to have a crazy amount of snaps, but I think those snaps, you're going to have a chance to be really, really productive.
Yeah. All right. People who listen to this podcast let us know this guy was coming. Andrew McCollum, defensive tackle, nose tackle for Illinois. Joey, we mentioned some of the questions I have about stopping the run. I don't know if Andrew McCollum answers those, but I am a sucker for interior defensive linemen who get quick disruption and penetration and winning one-on-one battles. And what have we seen consistently in practice since the spring? One, we've seen Andrew McCollum getting some first-team snaps, but we've seen him consistently win. Like any of the little snippets, and maybe it's a small sample size, but we see him win those battles. And it is not a surprise that he has emerged as a no doubt part of this rotation at nose tackle. Kurt Neal is probably going to be the starter. Carter Hewitt gives him a different flavor. He's not as quick or disruptive, but way longer. And he's got some strength to him. Obviously, an older man here. But Andrew McCollum, he's got a quickness that reminds me of, shades of, I'm not saying he's going to be this guy, but reminds me a little bit of Johnny Newton. Just his ability to win those battles quickly, Joey, get upfield and disrupt the backfield. Just kind of reminds me a little bit of that. So he's playing a different position, and he's low on experience. He only played 16 defensive snaps last year. Was it worth burning a red shirt? I'm not sure, but I think he's going to be a big part of the rotation, and I think his pass rush win rate is going to be high. Like I think next year, if you have a nose tackle rotation of Kurt Neal and Andrew McCollum, that's going to be a huge strength of this team. But I think he's going to step up, play 200-plus snaps, and be a significant part of that depth improvement we've talked about.
Yeah, and then next year maybe you have an Isaiah White, who is your kind of your standard, just take up a lot of space.
Nose
tackle.
Yeah.
Yeah. don't want to get too far ahead of that. The thing I like about Angelo McCollum, everything you said, he's quick, he moves well. He also watched T.Y. Edwards not be a massive nose tackle, find his way to a contract, had a really nice play, by the way, for the Chargers over the weekend. And I asked Angelo about that, and he said, yeah, he showed me you don't have to be 6'5", 350 to be a nose tackle in this system. And I do think part of the evolution of Illinois' defense, we've talked about getting away from man a little bit and press man, seems like they have leaned into a little bit more of a pass disruptor or a pass rusher at nose. And McCollum fits that. And he saw Edwards have success in that. I think Kurt Neal is a starter. I think McCollum is going to play a good amount of reps.
And it wouldn't surprise me if McCollum is the starter in their dime package at nose tackle, right? Like I think he would be the guy that you want to get upfield. And yeah, McCollum, James Thompson, Gabe Akis with Daniel Brown, and another guy I'll probably mention here, Kanena Odeluga, whoever it is. That's a pass rush ability on third down. So I'm excited about him. All right. Can I go with another defensive guy?
Of course.
We've mentioned him a lot, and I can claim that this was a guy when he was a prep prospect, kind of under the radar prep prospect, but he kind of played special teams right away. And I always take notice of those freshmen and sophomores who make an impact on special teams and show something. Like Tanner Heckel is going to be one of those guys. I think he's going to be a really important piece next year after Xavier Scott leaves. Jaheim Clark might be a starter.
He flirts with the proven discussion. So you have slid in. You slid in like you pressed the garage door button and you made your way out before it fully shut. You're safe on that.
I think he can be the breakout player on defense. That's how I feel about him. Is like, yes, he's a good player. We know he's a rotation player. Could be pushing for a starting job. But I just think he's got the potential to be a breakout player. Caleb Patterson was really solid last year. Torrey Cox, way better than expected than when they got him out of the transfer portal, 3 picks. But no corner played more snaps during the last 6 games, Joey, than Jaheim Clark. Pretty amazing stat. And most people knew I was a big fan of him as a prep prospect. He was skinny, but he was long. And he just has that Illinois Fighting Illini DB DNA that they have had under Aaron Henry, Ryan Walters, and now Corey Parker. He's just a fearless, tenacious tackler. He's not the stickiest guy in coverage like Cox, but he's more fluid than Patterson, and he's longer than Torrey Cox is. He just kind of gives him that in-between guy that when you're playing Washington and those receivers, you're playing Ohio State and those receivers, I just think he might be a better matchup. So he got into passing lanes last year, but I think that experience now, Joey, will help him make more plays on the ball, get some interceptions. He had 4 PBUs in the last 3 games last year. I just think he's going to play as many snaps as maybe any corner. I think it's going to be him or Caleb Patterson. So even if he doesn't start, I think he's going to play a big role. And again, I just think he can be the defensive kind of breakout playmaker after getting his feet wet, kind of playing a starting role last year. Now maybe he can be one of those top guys at corner.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me a little bit of the end of 22 when Xavier Scott gets thrown out there, when Matthew Bailey gets thrown out there. Teams tested Jaheim Clark last season. Max Brosmer in particular, when Xavier Scott went out and he was on Daniel Jackson, Brosmer went at him over and over and over. And you got to learn from that, right? Like, it's not fun to be in that if you're Jaheim Clark, but he said, those are big moments, they're learning moments. And he said, well, I'm guarding the number 1. I've got to know that ball's coming to me on every play, and I've got to be ready for that. The other thing, I'm kind of a sucker for stories. You know that.
Yep.
He's like functionally 5 years into playing football.
Yep.
He didn't play. He goes into high school and like the open house, he was a soccer player. And this coach sees all of the length that is Jaheim Clark. It's like, I would like it if you played football. And, there's some his dad thought it was like football, like soccer football. So he goes out there, and freshman year is just a straight up learning experience in high school for him. How to do this football. He's training in the backyard by himself. So he really has played football as sophomore, junior, senior, and 2 years at Illinois. That's it. That is all he has for football experience. We talk about Melvin Priestley just scratching the surface. I think Jaheim Clark is in that conversation. Oh, by the way, his coach is Corey Parker and Aaron Henry. Like, I will take the development with the tools and still like that ball of clay that he is and bet on that.
And it always feels like, for whatever reason, take the number of offers Illinois this player has in the defensive backfield. If it's fewer, there's more likely he's going to be awesome for whatever reason. That's how it's been with Illinois with these DBs. But he was a under the radar addition that I just think is in for a big year moving forward. I think a big leap up for him.
Yeah, I'm not on fully on board with him starting, not because I don't think he can.
Right.
I just don't want to manifest something that we haven't seen enough of actual evidence that he won't. I still think it's going to be Torrey Cox. I still think Jaheim Clark is going to play starter-like snaps and a ton of snaps.
At corner, there's probably, 1,500 snaps? I would not be surprised if it were like 500 with those three guys. It would not be a surprise if it was close to that.
Some of it's going to be matchup dependent.
Yep.
And I think that's right. We are really kind of staying on track here.
Look at this.
I'm going to stay on the defensive side of the ball. I'm going to go with Mac Versatility.
There it is.
I just can't shake the idea that he is going to be more than just a dime package safety. I think he is a very good dime package safety. I think his ball skills are very, very good. I was really impressed with the way that he tackled in the open field against Aiden Childs. That is not an easy task, especially when we thought of him as definitely that playmaking free safety, and he went and he put his shoulder down and he made those tackles. He has earned the right to be on the field. And I talked to him about this. The things what's in front of him, Matthew Bailey and Miles Scott. Two guys who are good football players. They are really good Big Ten football players. They're returning starters. The more you kind of think about Versatility and what this defense talks about forcing more takeaways, you got a guy who has done it. He's got 2 interceptions in his career, and the snaps are not very high to have that. I don't know how it looks, Jeremy. It definitely looks like the dime package. Beyond that, do you rotate series? Do you try to get him in more? I don't know. But this guy has earned a pathway to the football field.
I don't know if I want Matthew Bailey off the field ever. So even you can think one series game, I'm like, no, unless you're really, really pouring it on people. So it come down to stealing from Miles Scott. And I think the equation there would be, it's a 2-time team captain. It's the leader of your secondary who organizes everything, who makes the calls back there. Miles Scott has done that for 2 years, now going on 3. And
he's also the in-helmet guy, right?
Yeah.
I think that's notable.
He's the in-helmet guy. And Mac Versatility has made more, it's weird to say because Miles Scott had 2 pick sixes in 2023, had 2 interceptions last year. But that's a position we grew accustomed to, getting 5 interceptions a year. I think there's more opportunities to make plays in the ball, and I think Mac is a better athlete. I think he can get there. I think he can cover more ground. And we saw that as a run support guy too. So he answered that question in that Michigan State game where he was maybe the best defender on the field for Illinois outside of Gabe Backus that game. So he really showed something there. But there is Mac hasn't played as many snaps, and there's just a comfort that Miles is not going to give up the big play. It's just not going to happen. So maybe Mac has a little bit higher of a ceiling when it comes to playmaking, but there's just implicit trust to Miles. That said, I do want Mac to get a few more series. I just want to see how that goes. He's going to be a really important part of that secondary in 2026. But at the very worst, Joey, it's unbelievable depth to have a guy that you feel like is a starter as your third safety. So if Matt Bailey goes down, Miles Scott can move up, play boundary safety, you plug in Mac, you're good. You're still going to be good at that position. Or if Miles goes down, you got Mac that can make plays back there. So I'm with you. I think he's going to play a bigger role, and he should play a bigger role. But I just don't know. Does he replace Miles? I still don't.
I don't think so. I think everyone on that defense trusts Miles Scott. Miles Scott is a good player. It's not like this guy is a bad player. He's a good player. He's a team captain. Can I bring up something that's lingered with me a little bit, dating back to, I think it was his pre-training camp press conference with Aaron Henry? Can you get all 3 of them in non-dime packages on the field? Because Aaron Henry said, you think of Matt Bailey. Is he a linebacker? Is he a safety? Can you get him down in the box in certain series and get Miles Scott over at strong, their boundary, and Mac Versatility at free safety?
Maybe, but
I do that from time to time.
I haven't seen that package. That package is usually Xavier Scott is on the field, right? Is their star. Yeah. That's their third safety. And you don't want to take him off the field. So I know what you're saying. I know that comment, but I think it's mostly about the boundary safety position.
Right.
It's basically a hybrid linebacker safety, especially in their nickel package, which they play like 40, 50% of the time.
I just wonder if in certain formations, if you want to kick Miles or Xavier Scott outside, and if you want to try to get all three of those safeties on the field together.
Maybe. I just haven't seen it. So
I haven't seen it. I don't know. Matthew Bailey has a skill set where you think he could play a handful of packages more like that linebacker role. And maybe it's more of a reflection of trying to shoehorn Matt Grossetich on the field. I'm not that sold on the idea, but I think about what Aaron Henry has talked about, the way he's talked about all three of those guys, and what Matthew Bailey does, what they ask of that strong safety job. And I just wonder if that's something that they could unleash in some moment over the season.
I just don't think the role you're talking about with Matthew Bailey is really different than what he normally does on the field in that strong safety position, that boundary safety position. So maybe, but I think you have to take off one of the cornerbacks to put Xavier at corner, and it's Matt.
There's a lot of moving, right?
Yeah. Like, I think it's the dime package. I think you're going to see a lot of Matt Grossetich, which could be 20 snaps just there a game, and then get him for a series or two. All right, Joey, who's your next guy? This one's probably more the wild card. Is that how you got it? Or who do you got?
Do you have 2 left or 3?
I got 2 left.
I can't count. Yeah, this is a little more the wild card here because we have our last of the 4 and then a freshman, right?
Yeah.
Jordan Anderson.
Love it.
I don't know. This might be like 8 snaps a game for Jordan Anderson. We've talked about this a lot.
Maybe 4.
Right. I think each of those snaps is going to be different than the last. I think there's ways that they can use him and his versatility to throw different looks, whether that's an H-back, whether that's as a tight end, whether that's as a running back. I am all in on the way that he can do different things on the football field, and I'm even more all in when I heard Barry Lunny talk about him. Because if the offensive coordinator talks about you like that, there is a role for you somewhere, somehow in the offense. And Barry Lunny raved about Jordan Anderson.
Yeah, because you can play him H-back, running back, tight end, right? You can play him. It's mostly H-back and running back. Yeah. And the fact that he moved back to running back after John Forster's injury, I think that might end up being the biggest impact for me. Because when he moved to tight end, Joey, I kept saying, like, they lost Josh McCray. They need another big back, and they don't have it, but they have one in Jordan Anderson. So when he moves back to running back, and he's also getting some tight end snaps, but I think you basically think of him as an H-back. I think that could be huge because Fagan's got to show he can stay healthy. So if Fagan gets hurt again, I think Jordan Anderson's a running back. I just think he turns into running back, can be a pass protector, can give you some yards. It's not quite Kaden Fagan's athleticism, but he's played that position for a long time, and he's played it for Thad Ward. But yeah, just being able to line him up in so many different ways lets Barry Lunny be creative. And given the 4 tight ends they have, I like him moving back to running backs. I just don't think there's a ton of snaps there. So you can just use them in creative ways. We saw a package. It was a quarter ton of running back when it was Jordan Anderson and Kaden Fagan for a couple snaps last year, early in the season. That's interesting to me. Get another big blocker out there. It's almost like he's what Kenenna Odeluga was to the defense last year. Is kind of like what Jordan Anderson is, because Kenenna wasn't playing weak side linebacker at that point. Ryan Mead was. But you just bring him in certain packages. He doesn't really have a one straight position, but allows you to be really creative because he's a good football player.
Yeah, he could also do the Griffin Moore, just take the handoff and try to sneak forward for a yard. I think Luke Altmaier physically can handle those now. Don't know that you want him to.
Especially with Fagan and Anderson. Yeah.
If you have someone, say, built like Kaden Fagan and Jordan Anderson. So I think, we saw Griffin Moore have that moment. It didn't go particularly well in that moment, but I do wonder if that's something they can unleash with Anderson.
I'm glad you went that way on the offense. I went with like this sub package, what's he going to be player on defense. And there were 2 guys I was considering. I told you last night, I'm really struggling to figure out, is it Daniel Brown or is it JoJo Hayden? Malachi Hood and Kenenna Odeluga were kind of those guys last year, those sub package, like all-stars, but I had to pick one, and I'm taking a big swing here. I'm going with Mr. JoJo Hayden. Great recruiter for Illinois. I think fans fell for him there, but he's sneakily, Joey, played 89 snaps over the last 4 games of the season, had 3 pressures in that game against Michigan State, was so close to getting a couple sacks. I think he helped Gabe Akis set up a couple of those sacks because I remember JoJo got some pressure and Gabe kind of finished it off. So maybe Daniel Brown steals some of those snaps on the edge, but I think both are going to see the field. And Hayden really impressed me in the spring. We've seen him now move back to inside linebacker. He's been playing the backup will spot to Odaluga, and JoJo gives him a little bit more size there. Like, he's a powerful inside linebacker, kind of undersized edge player. It's a little bit of a boomer bust pick. He's going to play a role in special teams, but I could see Hayden getting a few key sacks or pressures in some key moments. He did last year against Michigan State.
This is really fun that they have these sub packages defensively because it allows us to think and kind of go outside the box in certain ways. Yeah, I'm with you. It's really kind of feels like, one, they traded Ish Kante and JoJo Hayden positionally in terms of Ish moving to outside and JoJo inside.
Why would they do that?
Why would you do that, Jeremy? I don't know.
JoJo on the field. That's what I think.
I also think that I'm with you. Daniel Brown could be in the way of some of that JoJo Hayden production in a way that we've talked about. Pick a receiver could be blocked by, picking up Braden Trimble could be blocked by someone. Whatever the case is. But Hayden, been around. He's got some length to him. He's got some size to him. He is intriguing. He is very, very intriguing.
Yeah. I think I'm going to regret not taking Daniel Brown because it would not shock me if he got more snaps than we think.
The way they're talking about Daniel Brown, you can't go back. I mean, it's a permanent marker. I noticed.
I wanted to go with JoJo, but Daniel is certainly somebody worth mentioning here. All right, we picked a freshman. I don't think we picked a surprise freshman. I wanted to pick Zanai Scott or Ty Cox, but I wasn't quite there yet because they have so many proven guys back there. They're so old in the secondary. I couldn't go with one of those guys. But Joey, go ahead.
All right.
I'm letting you go.
This literally cannot even be a surprise at this point. I'm going to go with Braden Trimble. I have cooled a little bit on what I thought his production could. I'm still kicking around a bold prediction idea for him. I don't know how comfortable I am in that. Not for anything about Braden Trimble. There's just a lot of guys in that. There's just a lot of volume in that room. I don't know how that's entirely going to shake out with the way
Braden Trimble in the Lovie Smith era have been competing for a starting job right now. It's just, I think it's going to take an injury for him to get to that kind of rotational role.
The way they talked about him, you absolutely have to listen and you have to factor that into what it could look like for him as a freshman. I've said it on here before. I think he could be a guy that's 4 weeks in and it's like, oh, hey, there is more Braden Trimble. There are more snaps for him out there on the field. He runs really good routes. He's put on good weight. He came through in the spring, learned how to struggle a little bit. That's kind of the thing we don't talk a lot about with freshmen. There's an adjustment period. Most of these guys haven't struggled meaningfully for like 4 years on the football field. They've just been awesome and better than everybody else. So I think that was good for him to learn how to fight through, he said, learn how to flush plays. You can't let one play. It's so cliche, but especially when you're a freshman and you feel the urge to, make the most of every single rep you got. You can't let one dictate how the next 2 or 3 go. He talked about learning from that. I don't really know what to expect, but I'm all in on the long-term Braden Trimble sign guy idea.
Here's the great part for Illinois. It was really hard to pick another freshman outside of Trimble who I thought was like, yeah, he's going to play. Like he's definitely not going to redshirt. There will be some. As I said, I think one of Zanai Scott or Tyvon Cox at some point will probably play. Maybe RJ Jones is that guy who's been injured here recently. One of those DBs will probably play special teams and probably get on the field at some point after some injuries. I just don't know who that is right now. One guy we should mention, I caught up with him too, but Bielema has mentioned him. Somebody else mentioned him last week. Cedric Weich, running back. They need some running back depth. So his emergence maybe here is good. He's added a lot of strength. He's a guy I would mention, but I went long-term here. It is not a name people would be surprised by. Maybe Grant Bierman can play some special teams, by the way. But I'm sold on this guy being in the mix next year. That's Carson Boyd. I think he's clearly going to be in the mix for QB1 next year. He's not going to play this year unless things go horribly wrong. Luke Altmaier is the starter. Ethan Hampton clearly is the backup right now. I think he's had a strong camp from what I have seen, the little we have seen, the way the coaches talk about him. But the way the coaches have talked about Carson Boyd since the spring is worth noting. And kind of backing up what I thought about him as a prospect, which is if this guy were 6'3", he probably would not be at Illinois because every other tool is great. He's got a strong arm. The velocity of the ball is fantastic. Obviously, you're a freshman. There's going to be some ups and downs mechanically. I think he can improve a little bit there, but the athleticism is great. The intelligence, the leadership ability is all there for him. He's just got to learn, right? He's got to learn the ways of Illinois. And what better guys to do that from than Luke Altmaier and Ethan Hampton and Art Sikowski and Barry Lunny. So I'm really high on what he can do. Whether he'll be the starter, I think they should bring in some competition for him next year, whether that is staying with Hampton or bringing in a transfer. But he's going to be in that mix. He's going to have to really take advantage of his head start because Michael Clayton and Camden Lapati the next couple of years are very, very talented as well. But I think Boyd's going to have the chance to compete for that starting job, which is a good sign.
An underrated thing I know you saw it over the weekend. His dad tweeted out a picture of Boyd and Trimble.
Yep.
Carson Boyd's number 4, Trimble's 11. You got the 411 nickname.
Oh,
I'm
great,
sold.
Rob. Great nickname, Rob.
I am not a smart person, so when I see something like so simple like that, I'm in. Yep. I need to hear no more. I will take that. It's a good nickname. I like that combination long term.
That's an awesome nickname.
That is. That's
nice.
Good. Yeah. I've seen that.
I figured you had, so I didn't know if you had. The Magic Man? That's right.
I've seen it. We're done. Yeah, I like Boyd.
Heavyweights response to the last episode, by the way. I was happy with all the people who loved heavyweights. So
I was glad to see you got some flowers for bringing that up. I still have no earthly idea what we're talking about here. Yeah, Boyd is that. There's so much to replace next as you get into like spring ball. But when the quarterback is one of them, and when one of those quarterbacks has been talked about the way Carson Boyd has been talked about, there's going to be a lot of airspace, a lot of words written about Carson Boyd come like sometime between January and May next year.
Yeah. The outside linebacker room, you basically have to replace. The offensive line, 4 or 5 starters, you have to replace. The defensive backfield might have to replace 4 starters if Matthew Bailey goes pro. But you do feel good about the talent there. Linebacker, you have to replace 2 starters. But quarterback's going to suck up all the oxygen, right? Like there's going to be a ton of guys you have to replace. And that's why so many of these people are going to have to step up into roles. That's where you feel good about the depth of a Mac Rosetich. Sabor Kareem, who go to my notes and listen to that guy talk. I was so impressed with just how he talked about waiting his turn 3 years in and why he returned to Illinois despite not having a starting spot and potentially not even having a rotation spot because the 3 safeties in front of him. That's why that retention is huge, Joey, and getting some of these backups a lot of snaps is going to be really important for the long term here.
Yeah, I'm with you. The only thing, just real quick on Boyd, the hard part in trying to project what 26 looks like for him is you kind of have to project how 25 goes for Illinois.
Yep.
Because if they get to a college football playoff, if they win 10 games, if they're in that talk, Luke Altmaier's played really, really well. And you've got a pitch that is really, really good. And the way college football is, when your pitch is as good as you have, and presumably the interest that comes with that, you can't afford to not gas that all the way through. If there's a high-level transfer quarterback that's interested in being a part of that, you got to see that through. And I know Boyd's talented. I'm all in on him in the long term as well. But that is just kind of the caveat, right? Is what if this goes as well as they hope and that pitch is as good as any pitch on the roster?
I think their approach to the portal will tell us a lot about what they think of Ethan Hampton and Trey Petty. Can they be the guys? Can they lead a bowl team? Because I think that would be the goal in 26, right? It's a tough schedule. Gets a little easier without Missouri on it, but can those guys lead you to a bowl game and sustain the success? Or do you want to go into the portal, spend a lot of money? Because the one thing about retaining those guys is, boy, you'd save a lot of money to spend elsewhere on an offensive line, a defensive back, or whatever it is. You could potentially save a lot of money doing that. But if you feel like you can go get a quarterback after Luke Altmaier that's an NFL guy, you probably go do it.
Got to do it. And that's not a reflection of Carson Boyd. It's a reflection of the pitch that you have and the opportunity that could be in front of Illinois.
Yeah. All right. That was fun, Joey. Just because we did not mention a guy does not mean we're not high on them, but these are just fun guys that we wanted to talk about that we think either take a big step forward or could be guys to watch for the future. So
where did you learn your penmanship? That is remarkable.
I was good, man. The only girl, there was a girl, Nicole Hoffman, I remember. She always graded better than me in handwriting, but I think she was the only one. So, yeah, not
you
bad.
Got handwriting grades?
Yeah, back in like second, third grade, you didn't do like handwriting things?
No, I mean like,
that, like
I don't remember
that you had to draw on.
No, I don't remember doing that.
Yeah,
and it is reflected in my handwriting now. It is. I had like
now my
7 outtakes of paper.
Yeah, now my notes are scribbles, right? Like my notes are pretty. Not as great, but when I want to sit down,
you lock in, when you really lock in,
when I'm locked in with a Sharpie, yeah, you can't screw up a Sharpie. You got to make sure you're being deliberate with those strokes. So yeah, a little better there.
I have never felt more pressure than trying to write that in a legible way. I was like, I don't.
Next year, I should have my daughter Lily do it. See if she does like some hearts and stuff like that.
That would level the playing field for my handwriting ability, I think.
My son's been working on it too. Torrin's gotten a lot better, so he's been working on it. Maybe I'll have them fill it out next year. But yeah,
please do. I would feel better about that.
Have Whitney do it next year. She can, is she an artist?
Not to my knowledge.
just your fiance.
I mean, I've never seen her draw.
Yeah,
I think her handwriting is good. I mean, it's unquestionably better than mine.
All right. It's a great idea, Joey. That was a lot of fun. Later in the week, maybe we'll hit on the positions, but we're going to do a basketball podcast later in this week as well. I got Eric Bossy coming in to talk about some of the latest commits for Illinois, as well as some of the guys they're going after in the class 2026. And they just released their rankings of the international guys. So we'll break that all down with Eric Bossy. But thank you for listening to the Illini Inquirer Podcast. Give us a follow, rating, and review wherever you get your podcast. Check us out on YouTube as well. Hit that like button, subscribe. We'll talk to you next time. For Joey Wagner, I'm Jeremy Werner. Everybody have a great day. Take care of each other. We'll talk to you next time on the Illini Inquirer Podcast.